All right, welcome back. Now, on our next story, we are going to go and discuss about a certain animated feature way back from 2007 called Surf's Up. Now, yes, I know that I am not a fan of the Sony Pictures Animation movies prior to Into the Spider-Verse, but one movie that not only do I consider it the best one before Spider-Verse, but what I easily consider to be my favorite one from that era has to be Surf's Up. Maybe not like an amazing animated feature, not even the best animated movie of that year, considering that it came out at the same time as films such as Persepolis and Ratatouille, but it is still a very solid feature and a very creative one on its own, with the way that they presented this mockumentary style film where they would take a generic like underdog sports story and they would present it in a very fun and unique way that really managed to make it work. And you could really see the creativity that it brings in, both in terms of storytelling and with the animation as well. I feel like the team at Sony at the time, they did some fantastic work on that feature. Now, what I did not expect, however, is that I would suddenly hear the name of Surf's Up again, that somehow it would be back into relevancy because of a very unexpected announcement. Yes, we got the original film, and it did spun off the sequel that I will talk a little bit later, but now it looks like we are going to be getting a Surf's Up series. Yes, Thunderbird Entertainment and its animation division, Atomic Cartoons, has officially announced that they are going to be developing Surf's Up the series, which will be based on the 2007 film. Now, one thing to go and note is that this is mostly just an announcement, and we don't really know a lot of the details that are in store. We don't necessarily know about who is going to be in the cast, and we don't know when this is going to be coming out. However, unlike the recent announcement of The Simpsons Movie 2, we do have extra bits of info in terms of what's going to be within the picture and who's going to be working on it. Or, well, I don't mean working in the picture, I mean working on the series. But anyways, in my source here on Deadline, there is actually a bit of a description of what this series is going to be about. And it says here, the series will follow an overconfident teen penguin named Flip, who teams a zany bunch of young surfers in his attempt to become a surf legend. Things go spectacularly wrong, and the wipeouts are spectacular, so they instead build their own surf community on Pengu Island. Characters from the movies such as Cody, Big Z, and Chicken Joe will return. And in terms of the people who are going to be working on this, so far we got the core team that's going to be involved, in which it says here that Lien Sawatsky, Dan Williams, and John Hazlitt, the trio behind the animated children's series The Guava Juice Show, are writing the adaptation and will serve as showrunners. Jennifer Twiner McCarran, CEO and chair of Thunderbird Entertainment, will exec produce alongside Atomic Cartoons' Joel Bradley and Aaron Bell and Sony's Rick Mischel. I think that's how you say his name. Mischel? Or Mischel? Or I'm going to go with Mischel. Kitty Walsh will be the co-executive producer for Atomic. And we do have a couple of quotes that I just want to go and read. The first one being from Aaron Bell, in which he states, Leanne, Dan, and John are passionate about only two things in life: penguins and surfing. It was undeniable that they were the writing team, pun intended, to adapt Surf's Up as a hilarious animated series. The right team. Okay, whatever. It's still a bad pun. I don't care. And then we also got another quote here, which is from Rick Mischel, in which he says, We're excited to be partnering with Atomic and their long history of bringing great intellectual property to series animation. Surf's Up is iconic, and we look forward to a whole new audience getting to know these characters. So, when it comes to Surf's Up, now that it is officially getting a TV series, it is unexpected, honestly, but, when I do think about it, I can imagine the potential that it has. And the fact that they're not going to go as like a straightforward series where we are going to see more adventures with Cody and Chicken Joe, not make it just that lazy kind of straightforward style of series, and instead they're going to go and bring in like new characters, kind of like making this like a sequel spin-off series in a way where they're going to be focusing on new characters as they will try to go and become surfing legends in their own right, in a way following the same kind of footsteps that we have seen with Cody and with Big Z. It does sound pretty interesting. But one factor that I've seen many people actually suggest, and honestly, yeah, like I cannot imagine what other direction that they can go with it. Honestly, this is the perfect idea to go and bring back the mockumentary style series. Now, I know that when it comes to that kind of format, when you want to go and make like a TV comedy series, like nowadays, I get it that it feels very tiring to go and do that mockumentary style, because back in the 2010s, it almost feels like almost every show just wants to be like the next Office or the next Park and Recreations and stuff like that. Like, it was a bit oversaturated with mockumentary comedy series, and it was something that not even the Muppets were able to go and actually execute well. But in the case of this series in particular, I feel like it would be perfect for it, considering that it's what the first movie did. It's the format of the first feature. That's what makes it unique. That's what makes it stand out. Like, they got into that mockumentary trend before most of these have done so. Like, they were able to really get into that and actually brought it not just in movie form, but also to bring it into animation form, which does add that layer of intrigue and creativity and excitement. And that's one thing I would like to see actually carry over onto this. Honestly, we've kind of passed like that time where like the mockumentary style was like the big trend. Like, we've moved on to it, but this one does have the excuse where they could bring that back, mainly because it's to stay true to the storytelling style of what was done in the original Surf's Up. So if they go with that, then I could see where like they could actually make this work out, where they could go and expand that style of storytelling that they have established in Surf's Up, and just really play with it, just really be creative and try to find more of like what they can go and do, especially not just like with the new characters, but even to go and expand a bit upon the old characters from the movie, like not just with Cody and Chicken Joe, but especially hearing that Big Z is also going to be coming back. That I actually do find to be pretty cool, considering that Big Z was like completely absent. I don't think he was even mentioned in the second film. Like, now that he's going to return, all right, it does sound like they are going to stay true to the first movie, and most likely they're just going to stick to the first film. I don't think they're going to be referencing anything from that second feature whatsoever. But at the same time, though, I'm not going to go in and immediately hype myself up to really jump into this series like, oh boy, more Surf's Up, hooray! I'm not going to go and do that, because there are some things that I will admit is giving me a little bit of doubt, where I am acknowledging that there is that possibility that this thing could face its own wipeout, and it'll just be like a stupid one-season thing, and that's pretty much it. And I have two reasons for that. Number one, since I've already mentioned it, the last time we've had something from Surf's Up, it turned out to be, well, terrible. And I'm talking about specifically Surf's Up 2 Wave Mania, where it is a crossover between Surf's Up and WrestleMania, bringing in some of their all-stars and try to create this WrestleMania surfing movie that it just did not turn out great. And oh boy, it turned out to be quite a flop right there. Not to mention that it gave me one of the most traumatic images that I've seen from Sony Pictures Animation, and that is the image of the otter Vince McMahon dreaming of himself having a plate with a fish, and he's sucking out of his anus through a straw, and the fish is sexually enjoying it. And as the Vince McMahon otter says, apparently that's how he gets fish milk, which honestly is just horrific. It is horrible. No. Like, honestly, that is why I am hoping that, I'm hoping that Wave Mania would not be considered canon. We do not need to bring any of the wrestling references back. I don't care. I don't want a penguin John Cena or a penguin Underminer. I just don't want that otter Vince McMahon return with his idea of drinking fish milk in an oddly sexual way. No, just absolutely not. And I mean, considering the things that have been revealed about Vince McMahon, that I think honestly it would be the wisest decision to just not acknowledge WWE whatsoever, or just not acknowledge the sequel in any way. But still, though, it does. The point that I am making is that we have seen where, yes, Sony can definitely screw up with Surf's Up, or it is possible for something from Surf's Up to actually turn out to be bad. So that's why I have a little, I have a bit of hesitancy with this series. And the second reason, by the way, is also from the fact that, let's be honest, when it comes to Sony animation movies being turned into an animated series, they generally suck. Or I would even say Sony Animation does not have a good track record when it comes to their TV shows, because just about all of them, they fall flat. They end up sucking and they end up not surviving for that long. Okay, maybe saying that all of them suck is honestly quite harsh. Maybe it's not necessarily true, but but it is true that most of them do kind of turn out to be flops. Even when they try to do something original, it just doesn't really work out. And a great example is maybe some of you remember a few years back, there was that Agent Elvis series. Sony Animation wanted to make this adult animated series where it's about Elvis Presley, who turns out to be this secret agent. And they have this all-star cast where they even have Matthew McConaughey as Elvis. And that ultimately just did not last long. It only lasted for one season, and that's it. And this is not even to mention about the shows that are actually based on their movies. Not long ago, out of nowhere, for some reason, we got an open season series that, honestly, that came and went. There was the Hotel Transylvania series that's kind of like a prequel that starred Mavis, and that was another one that kind of came and went as well. And not to mention, I did hear there was supposed to be another Hotel Transylvania series coming up on Netflix that's called Motel Transylvania. And yet I haven't heard anything since. I'm kind of surprised that Netflix didn't talk about it since the announcement, or we didn't hear anything about that thing. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised. It's is that actually happening? Is it still in development? I don't know. It's just, that I feel like it's a little bit weird. I think they mentioned it was supposed to be coming out in 2025, but I guess, some delays have happened. But then, well, of course, there is one more series, and probably some people could say the most infamous of them all, the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatball series. And that one, I can guarantee you, I don't think I've heard a single person say anything positive about that series in particular. So far from what people have been saying, how people watch the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs series, it's like how I've seen the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs movies. So from there, that is definitely a bad sign. And that pretty much tells me, yeah, I'm going to avoid that crap at all costs. So, yeah. But honestly, though, if there is one show that I've actually heard some good things about that did come from Sony Pictures Animation, it would have to be Meet the Hearts, where it's an animated series that was on HBO Max that I believe was based on the Hair Love animated short. And from there, I don't know how long it lasts. I think it had like 1 season or it had 2. But I did actually hear some good things about that one. So that's why it was wrong of me to say like, oh, all Sony animation shows suck, because there were a few that did come out. And I have seen, Young Love. Is that what it's called? I thought it was Meet the Hearts or something like that. But anyways, as I was saying, the thing is that, yeah, like with Meet the Hearts or Young Love, I've heard some good things about that. And I did see people in the chat wall. They did say that Agent Elvis, well, like some people have said it was kind of decent. But other than that, though, yeah, the rest, like the Hotel Transylvanias, the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Open Season, yeah, those are like avoid at all costs. So that's why I have a little bit of trust issues when it comes to this idea of making a Surf's Up series. And not to mention that I did see some people also being a little bit cynical with the fact that nobody asked for a Surf's Up series technically. But there is one thing that I do look upon it, and there's kind of something sad about that announcement in particular. And that's mainly from the fact that I feel like, or maybe this is just from my perspective, this is just from my opinion, but it feels like this is an example of how Sony Animation is struggling when it comes to having viable franchises, or having franchises that they could still go and actually continue forward, like making more stuff from. Because lately, Sony Animation honestly has been pretty dry when it comes to having like franchises that they could continue making new stuff again and again. Like, yeah, there are some franchises that they got that they could definitely be that they could be solid, but but I'm talking about more the business side of it. That the fact that they don't have as much franchises that are still alive and well compared to some of the other studios, like with Disney, DreamWorks, Illumination, and stuff like that. Like, it does make it concerning with how things are with Sony. I mean, like, you got Spider-Verse right now that it's pretty much getting close to its end, especially with Beyond the Spider-Verse that's going to be coming out in a few years. Hotel Transylvania, as I mentioned, there's going to be that other series that's coming out, Motel Transylvania. But then again, you could tell that with the Hotel Transylvania franchise, that's almost done right there. And I mean, they're lucky that they got K-pop Demon Hunters right now. That might give them a little bit more longevity. But the rest so far, unless they're going to go and try to make a franchise out of some of their newer stuff like Mitchell's vs. the Machines or Vivo. But then again, that would have to make them like work with Netflix right now. But the rest of like what they've established, stuff like Open Season, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, or the stuff that they no longer own, like Smurfs or the Angry Birds, like they're done, honestly. Like it's at the point where, like, you know, Sony is going through by the skin of their teeth at this point in terms of their business. And that's why it just makes it a little bit concerning. And right now, yeah, they got, you know, they still have Spider-Verse for now. They got K-pop Demon Hunters, but what else? Maybe I know they got like they got Ghostbuster, you know, like they do have a Ghostbusters movie with Netflix, but still though, like they're just going like immediately they're going through franchises just one after another. And especially in this climate of cinema that is all about franchises and already existing IPs, like, that's not really a good look upon Sony Pictures Animation. I'm just saying. Like, maybe their new original stuff that they got coming out, like Goat or Buzz, maybe that could work out in their favor. But for now, it's just, I don't know. At least this is from my perspective. It's just not going great in terms of viable franchises that Sony Animation has right now. But overall, though, this is all to go and say that when it comes to Surf's Up, the series, I'm going to be very cautious about it. I could see the potential where it can really work out. I could see where it could actually be fun and it could stay true to the spirit of the original Surf's Up movie. But at the same time, considering Sony Animation's track record when it comes to TV shows, and also with what we have recently seen with Surf's Up 2 Wave Mania, there is also that likelihood where things might not go well with this particular franchise. So overall, I think this is gonna be a bit of a wait and see if this is going to be worthwhile or not. All right, but with that said, now it is time. I'm going to pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about a Surf's Up series? Are you guys excited to go and see what's going to be going on? Do you have too much doubt to think that this might actually be good? Let me know what you all think about this. All right, so let's see. I saw the original Surf's Up a few years ago, and I was really impressed with it. So much so that I think it's my favorite Sony Animation film, more so than the Spider-Verse films. However, as for the series, I feel a little bit iffy on this, especially with last time Sony tried to bring back Surf's Up with the WWE sequel, which failed badly. Then again, I see the potential of a Surf's Up series since the original characters are coming back, so overall, I'll wait and see on this. All right, that is fair. Let's see now. I do really enjoy the first Surf's Up, and this series does sound interesting, and at the very least, and as a sort of new generation sequel. But with all the bad track records Sony Animation has with series based on their movies, I'm not going to get my hopes up. By the way, did you know that before Surf's Up, Aardman was actually planning a mockumentary with the canceled feature Tortoise vs. Hare? I've heard a little bit about that before, not fully, but I am familiar with the idea that Aardman wanted to do something with the tortoise and the hare. That, you know, that does ring a bell. I will say that. Let's see now. I really do enjoy the original Surf's Up, and definitely one of Sony Animation's better movies. Honestly, I'm a little conflicted. I could see how they could continue the story of the original as long as it doesn't mention the second movie. However, given Sony Animation's track record with making animated series not being great, so overall we'll see. Also, with issues of Sony Animation not having many viable franchises, that's pretty much a problem with Sony Pictures in general. That is a fair point. Yeah, it is true that with it's not just a Sony Animation thing, it really is like a Sony Pictures thing in general. Yes, with Sony Pictures, they might have a bit more viable franchises going on. They're still going with, you know, as I mentioned, with Ghostbusters or with Jumanji and stuff like that. But it is true, like, when you do think about Sony Pictures, yeah, they don't have a lot going for them either. So I think that this definitely is an issue that is bigger than just Sony Pictures Animation. So you do bring up a good point. All right, let's see here. I love Surf's Up so much. It's definitely one of my top tier Sony Animation films along with Spider-Verse and K-pop Demon Hunters. I think it's a good idea for this to be a series, just as long as it has the documentary style in the series. Also, Big Z coming back is a big bonus to me. Oh, and I'd like to mention that the soundtrack from Surf's Up is one of the best ones out there to listen to from Green Day and Pearl Jam. That soundtrack is great along with K-pop. Sony Animation has great taste in music. Yeah, I mean, their soundtracks, they ain't bad. I gotta give them that. Let's see now. And I mean, of course, you gotta bring up, like, the Spider-Verse ones. I mean, for God's sakes, like Sunflower or Danger. I mean, like those are some top tier songs from Sony Animation right there. You cannot deny that. Let's see what other comments would be. All right, I think I'll just read one more here. All right, so let's see. I'm very quite surprised that they're bringing back Surf's Up as a TV series. I have yet to see the first film, and I really definitely should one day if I can, but I could definitely see the potential of making a mockumentary animated series. Then again, since Wave Mania, I don't know. And please don't make me think about that one image of Vince drinking some fish milk. It's traumatizing. But yeah, I hope the series stays more to the original, and maybe it could be fun. All right, so I do see some mixed reception here. You know, some people can see the potential, but at the same time, it's like, you know, considering the past experience that we've had with Surf's Up 2 and with other Sony Animation series based on their movies, it's like, I don't know. We're keeping our hype to a very strict limit, if you catch my drift. But still, though, either way, I wish the team at Atomic Cartoons the best of luck on working on this show, and that hopefully you will prove our doubt wrong, and that you can make something awesome with Surf's Up.